Alright, so I'm going to attempt to do a little welding video with very little editing in it. So just like as I'm working, what I'm doing, and this is going to be some tips on specifically doing outside corner joints. So this is a folded 3mm bracket. It's designed so that when it's folded, we've got a nice corner to corner joint with like a little valley to fill with weld, and we want it to penetrate all the way through to the back of the bracket. When you're setting up an outside corner joint, you're going to get the inner corners should be touching or even have a little bit of a gap. What you don't want to do is overlap it like that, and then you commonly see this overlapped, and then people will weld along the top of it, and that's not the way to do it. You really want to go like inside edge to inside edge so that you've got like a little valley to fill, and that way it's going to be much easier to punch that weld all the way through. So first thing I'm doing is, because these haven't all folded perfectly, that one's really good. You can see that one's not quite right, it's got a bit of a gap, so I'm just going through and making sure they're where they need to be. So I can just clamp on these holes and get it where it needs to be. So I'll just tack that at this end before I weld it. Settings wise, there's some machine settings that will help specifically with doing this sort of thing. So I'm currently set at 7.9 meters a minute and 18.6 volts. I'm using the synergic setting, where I essentially just put the material thickness into the machine, and then I can use the voltage on the side as a trim to make fine-tuning adjustments with it. So I've got it set to 3mm, but then I've got my voltage turned up a little bit. And the reason I do that is because that will flatten the weld out, and it'll actually drive the weld down in a bit more. Best way to think of voltage is like the pressure behind the arc. So if you imagine that bit of wire is got a load of little electrons in it, all the electrons sat in that wire are essentially the current, the amperage that is just sat there. The voltage is the force that's like pushing it all through. So if you want to if you've got a weld that's like crowning up and you want to try and flatten that out, if you increase the voltage, it'll flatten it out and actually drive it further in. And then on the opposite of that, obviously, if you've got a weld that's pushing through too much, you can back the voltage off, trim it back a little bit, and it'll bring it back up. So yeah, 7.9 meters a minute and 18.6 volts. You could try and copy those settings, but unless you've got that identical machine, a HTP Revolution, running on 0.8mm MIG wire and identical gas, you won't get the same result. That's why you really need to learn how to like fine-tune the machine, because there's so many variables. The wire makes a difference, the gas makes a difference, the way you weld makes a difference. Just something you got to learn. So I'm going to do a very steady, smooth push angle forward. I'm not doing any like torch manipulation or like trying to put any sort of weave in it, because you'll see it on the other side, and I just want it to penetrate through nice and smooth through the other side. So I'll just tack this one and then we'll weld it. So we've got a nice smooth looking weld on the outside that's not too crowned up. And then that's nicely penetrated all the way through on the inside. And that is exactly what we're looking for. Do another one. Might as well, I've only got about 50 to do. So that one's doesn't need tacking, it's basically perfect inside corner to inside corner. So next I've got to weld these little rectangular pieces on there, and then that's that bit of the bracket done, and then next bit's like the sliding mechanism. This is the Escort anti-roll bar brackets, which I've been trying to get done for a long time, finally getting around to them. This is what you would call synergic or auto setting, so I can just wind the material thickness here up and down to whatever I'm welding. That's really your guide, your starting point. You need to know how to use this trim to get the best out of it, because different applications are going to require slightly different setup, different joint configurations require different setup, so you really want to learn how to use this properly. But as a basic function, if your weld's like crowning up and sitting on top, you can push the voltage up, that'll drive that weld down in. If you're blowing through, blowing holes, you can back that off and it will bring the weld back up. So give that a go. So hopefully that was, there's some useful information there for anyone trying to do something similar to help you along your way with your welding. You can come here and learn in person if you want. I run welding workshops for all abilities. So you can find the details for that at urchfab.com. But yeah, that's going to be it for this one. Cheers for watching. See you on the next one.